Okay, hello everybody. We are going to continue the chapter 5 notes. We had just finished the method for an if example, where we looked at if, else if, and else statements. And one thing to notice as we did that, we were comparing some values for our conditional expressions here, such as the die roll equals 3. And when we were doing this the entire time, we were using integers. And we can do direct comparisons like this with integers. Now that gets a little bit more complicated if we were to do doubles, and that's what we're going to demonstrate in this video. All right, so in this case, we're going to make a new method for ourselves. This is going to be have a return value of Boolean, and we're going to be able to compare double values with this. We're going to call this doubles are equal, and we're going to have a number 1 and two doubles that will pass into this method. Then we will go ahead and return true or false. We'll return a Boolean value. So what we'll do here is we're going to write a little method, basically like a chunk of code here that we can use to compare two doubles and return true or false, depending on if they're equal or not. All right. So when we do this, as we talked about a bit last unit, with doubles, it's a bit tricky because double values are, it's going to tell me I need to return, so I pardon. So with double values, it gets a little tricky because ultimately they're stored as binary digits, right? So if you use this equality operator, basically the binary digits are going to have to match. And just because of the precision of doubles, that's going to get a little bit hairy depending on how it actually just how it works out. So it's not best practice to go ahead and use this equality operator with doubles because you might not actually get what you're looking for, as we demonstrated last unit. This is the same type of thing we had to use when we did our unit tests, and we had to use that epsilon value to check in our unit tests to make sure we were close enough for comparison's sake. So we don't really want that equality operator. Rather, we're going to have to figure out a different way to compare doubles, and that's what this method will do for us. We'll use an epsilon value again to go ahead and do that. Right, so what we'll actually do here is store an epsilon value that we can use. We'll store this as a constant value, right? Thus the final keyword there. And all caps, because this is a constant value that we're going to store. All right, and we'll say this is 1e to the negative 14 times 10 to the negative 14. All right, so we've got an epsilon value here, and now we want to compare these doubles and make sure they're within this epsilon value of each other. Now, in order to do that, we are going to have to find the difference between the two values. And we don't really know which one's going to be greater than the other, so we could end up with a negative or a positive number here. So to find whether it's within that difference, we can use the absolute value method from the math class to get the absolute value of the difference. So that's actually what we'll do here. So we'll go ahead and write an if statement. Absolute value method for math is abs. This is on your quick reference. So this is one of those methods that you don't have to memorize or anything, and you're going to have access to this through the quick reference. And then we'll take the difference. Right, and we'll compare that to the epsilon using the less than operator. And then if it's within the epsilon, we'll return true. and else, get some more space here. Else we will return false. Therefore, if the absolute value of the difference falls within, is closer, less than the epsilon value, then we return true. Right? So we can see if the numbers are close enough. Right? Now, one thing to note here is that expressions ultimately are evaluated, no matter how complex they are, down to a true or false value. So if we look at this highlighted expression here, ultimately this has to be a true or false, right? And then we just return true after we figure that out. So one thing to note is that if you ever have a method that returns a Boolean value, which is also based on an expression that evaluates to Boolean value, right? You can oftentimes instead return, right, the return value of the expression rather than returning true or false in an if-else statement like this. So although we wanted to do this to demonstrate, I do want to show you that, right, you don't have to use an if statement here. Another way to do this would be to just return, right, the what the expression evaluates to. So you could also replace this chunk of code here with just this return statement right here. That would also work fine. So let's demonstrate this. Doubles are equal method, so we could take a couple values that are close but are not quite equal. Make sure that evaluates to false, and it does. Let's try some other values, 5.5 and 5.5. Turns true, so that's close